Alright, streaming. Back again. I'm pretty excited for the stream, honestly. It's going to be a lot more personal. It's going to be stories and all that good stuff, along with information as always, because, I can't just make a piece of content that doesn't provide some sort of useful information. It's crazy how much colorful this monitor is than that one. So this is my first stream with my new monitor. Like here, I look so nice and tan, and over there I look so pale. I don't know. Hopefully guys' screens are good enough to capture the colors. The humming sound? Oh wait. Oh, hold on. Forgot to turn on the thing. One moment. Yeah, I'll be fine. Just gotta... Let me hear it real quick. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. What's this? Okay. That should have... Okay, I don't hear it anymore. Okay. Well, thank you for pointing that out. I guess when I was testing my audio earlier, I didn't have this fan on over here, so I wasn't able to single that out. But in any case, stream should be fun. It's going to be a lot more personal than most other ones. Because, I'm trying to at this point, I'm just trying to make content. I'm kind of tired of doing the whole YouTube thing of, oh, well, this will get views, this won't, etc. At this point, I'm really just focusing on having fun, because I feel like that's where the content ends up actually being the best. So, it's interesting, you'd be surprised at how many things change as I go through the course of trying to plan out these streams. Originally, it was going to be a big whiteboard stream with one big topic, but then I kind of realized I don't really like doing whiteboard videos that much. I would prefer talking like this, and specifically about stories. So thankfully I've been doing daily logging, specifically for the purpose of, it's partially for psychological reasons, but it's also for ideation, getting my ideas in writing, so it's easier to make content, and just happen to be very useful for this. So I didn't think about the order I'm going to do these things, but let's first talk about the pill ideologies. Actually, I should probably warm up a little bit. I didn't warm up my voice before this, so my tongue's getting a little stuck on words. Free piece of information. If you have to go somewhere and talk, get a pencil or something, and do tongue twisters with a pencil in your mouth like this. Peter Piper picked up pickle poppers, a pickle poppers, Peter Piper picked Peter Piper picked up pickle poppers, a pickle poppers, Peter Piper picked. It forces you to, I feel that feels way better. It forces you to enunciate your words more, so when you talk without, it's much easier. You don't get stuck as much. That's a big problem I had for a long time, actually. For how much I speak now, you'd be surprised at looking at how I used to talk. So remember, I had this old recording of myself when I wanted to be a gaming YouTuber. Never uploaded any videos, but I was kind of talking to the mic, and I was just slur all my words like this, and it's hard to replicate, but basically all my words would get jumbled up into one. It'd be like I was mumbling, and it made it very hard for me to, made it very hard for other people to understand what I was saying. So happy I went through all those exercises in order to be able to enunciate my words. Over-exaggerative speaking also helps, so normal talking is like this, and then you just start talking like this. It also gives you a mini Kermit the Frog impression. In any case, Okay, so first I'm going to be talking about why, basically, I'm trying to think about if I want to record, because I'm going to upload these afterwards. I'm thinking if I want the intro to be recorded now, or I'm just going to do it now. Why would I wait? Anyways, okay, just here. Alright, so one of the easiest ways to better understand how you should interact with women and how you should live your life in general is to understand that every single pill ideology is retarded. So, obviously I'm speaking about black pill, red pill, and blue pill, and then there's like a purple pill, a white pill, a clear pill. There's so many different ones. I'm just talking about 3 in this video because those are the ones that tend to encompass 99.9% of people that actually believe in pill ideologies. Okay, so let's go over a quick rundown of what each one is. So red pill is basically the super macho man pill. And as someone who myself talks about the idea of like being macho and whatnot, you'd think I would actually identify with this position. But I don't. Okay, I really don't like that position because I'm just checking on chat. I really don't like the red pill position because it has a devoid of a moral system. Okay. I will get more into the detail of the issues later. First, I want to kind of go over what the positions are of each pill. Blue pill is basically just be nice, bro. And black pill is basically just be good looking, bro. So, the problem with blue pill and black pill is that they ignore reality. And the red pill tends to be most grounded in reality, but it misses the... I would guess because importance is like an ethical statement, a moral statement, right? You need some kind of moral system in order to say something's the most important. So, seeing that red pill is the most devoid of morals, then I guess that might actually make it the worst. I don't know. Because it's the most useful, but it also leads you into the most degenerate areas, so it's definitely a double-edged sword. But in any case, there's one idea that tramples all of these ideas, and I'll get more into that later, but for now, I want to get a little nerdy. We're going to get nerdy, and we're going to talk about why the red pill is retarded. So, for what I'm talking about the red pill, I kind of want you to think of Andrew Tate, Myron Gaines, so on and so forth. Their idea of red pill. If there's some random red pill YouTuber that you know that doesn't align with those people, and you're screaming sour grapes, and you don't like the idea that I'm talking about, these other people, not that person specifically, suck my balls. I don't care. So, I want you to think about their ideas. So, their ideas is be a man, and women are, they're a bunch of hoes, so, what you gotta do is you gotta not get with a hoe, but you gotta create hoes. As Myron Gaines literally said that quote for quote, and he also said, I believe he said either 15 or 30 bodies before you get married. So, the red pill has a very strong emphasis around sex. Right? And that's why a lot of people get terrible dating advice from them. Because here's something, and this is kind of the whole nerdy part I was going to get into. Every single position has assumptions going into it. So, for instance, if the red pill dating YouTuber gives you advice, the advice is specifically tailored towards you getting laid. That's the whole point of the advice. So, if you go into that using that advice for a long-term relationship, do you think it's going to work that well? No. It's because it's not designed for that. It's designed for you to just get laid that same night. Okay? So, likewise, all these positions, they all have the same problem, but the red pill one is the most egregious in this. All of these positions make assumptions. So, the red pill position assumes that you should have a bunch of sex. Because, it's being a man, And here's the thing. In order to instantiate a should claim, you need to have some sort of moral system to back it up. Okay? Because the question can simply be asked, well, why should that? And then there's something called a fallacy. I'm sure you know what it is. Basically, when you use a invalid way of reasoning, right? So it's wrong. And you can't say something like, well, that's just how it is. That's a fallacy. You can't just say, that's what most people think. It's fallacy. Society, fallacy. All these things are fallacies, and the point is that the only moral system that can work comes from God. And in my case, as you can obviously tell, I have the Christian position. I say the Christian position is the only one that works. Islam, so on and so forth, doesn't work. But even Islam, which, Andrew Tate and Myron Gaines, they jerk themselves off to, doesn't even support what they're doing. And according to both of those positions, although I don't like to intermingle with Muslims, I'm a Christian, and I only like to intermingle with Christians, but even then, both of the ethical systems say you should not go out and have a bunch of sex. And, just to appeal to people's personal experience, I mean, I work with people psychologically, okay? And plenty of those people I've worked with and other people I've spoken to, they all have, not all, most have experiences with women. Beyond just, oh, hi, oh, hi, oh my god, you're so cute. No, I mean, they actually got at it, okay? They got their cocks wet, some people would say. They got some pussy, bro. And literally all of them told me the same thing. When they have their mask on, the persona for society, it's like, oh yeah, so amazing. I'm that guy, I got some cooch, I'm that guy, I got pussy, you don't get any pussy, I get pussy, you don't get pussy. That whole thing, right? But then, when they're in private conversation, when they're just talking to me, when we're really going deep into their own minds, deep, it's probably not the right word to be using right now, but in any case, okay, it's okay. But when we're delving into their psyches, okay, they all told me the same thing. They're like, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I had it back. I wish I saved it for a girl that I actually really cared about. And they all told me literally the same thing. And I think what's happening right now is there's this big social disease going around that basically just says, well, being a virgin's bad, getting a bunch of cooch is good, and that's it. It's wrong. And of course, as always, the Bible's been shown to be correct, okay? Because what does the Bible say? Well, wait until marriage, if you're going to do it. And literally every single person I've spoken to that has done it would have benefited from following that advice. And this kind of goes into the solution I propose for all these different pill ideologies, but let's not get into that right now. We're going to go into that soon. Let's first then tackle... the criticism of the red pill is it doesn't have a proper moral foundation to substantiate its should claims. And this would be called, epistemology. They don't have an ontological foundation, which is a source of these morals that's coherent, and they don't have an epistemic foundation to justify their knowledge of these morals. If you think I'm nerding out, you're damn right I am. And you can either be stupid and not understand what I'm saying, or learn a bit, okay? Ontology is like the existence of a certain thing, and epistemology is like knowledge, justification, why. Okay, so, blue pill. So the biggest problem with blue pill is it just doesn't work. Now, blue pill actually has some utility when you get deeper into a relationship. Because, again, so if you listen to the red pillars, they say that emotional connection doesn't really matter. You're just there to clap cheeks. And here's the thing. Emotional connection doesn't matter when you're going to a club and you're cold approaching and you're trying to get a girl in a hotel room. Emotional connection doesn't matter at that point. These girls have been through too much cock to have any emotional connection. Okay, they've been gaped 50 times. They basically lost all ability to love a man, okay? But here's the thing. When you apply the advice to regular girls, no, you know me, if you don't end in teen, I ain't going in, and virgins only, for my wife, okay, just one. So, I mean, I wouldn't relate to all these people that are going to get with a girl with 5 bodies or whatever, but at least at that point they can make some kind of emotional connection. It's not going to be that strong, but there's going to be some. It's better than 100, or 50, or even 25. So, here's the thing. In the short term, the relationship might work out a little bit, but as time goes on, see, women, and I'm going to go over this more later, but, because I'm going to do a breakdown video of a very unlikely source for explaining what women really want in a relationship, but women are looking not only for the fierce predator beast in the wild, they're also looking for the fatherly figure. And the fatherly figure is characterized by kind of this protective aura and this nurturing and caring aura at the same time. So the thing is, these red pill guys, they kind of over-identify with the former, and they don't really emphasize the latter, which would be that fatherly archetype. And what happens is, there's just no connection in relationship. It ends up falling apart. Contrary to what these people will tell you, just giving a girl good sex isn't enough. Okay? It's very important. It helps a lot. Wait until marriage. A little nasty. And it's fun. I could do a whole entire, because the thing is, if you know psychology and you've read the actual textbooks, not the new psychology textbooks, but the older ones, the ones that are in black and white with the crusty looking pages and whatever, like the ones I've gone through, hundreds of pages, and these aren't just people talking about it. This is the girls talking from their own subconscious and unconscious dreams and whatever. If you look at those, it's actually very important. But it's not everything. And again, remember I said earlier about assumptions. Red pill goes in with the assumption that, well, sex is the only goal. And when sex is the only goal, then yeah, emotional connection doesn't matter. But if you're trying to get into a long-term relationship, it does. So that's not the limit of the red pill advice. For you guys who aren't complete degenerates. Now, black pill. Black pill is very interesting. Swear, every time I'm on stream and I drink water, it just goes down the wrong way. I don't know why. Anyways, so, black pill. Basically just be good looking, bro. And here's the thing. I feel like black pill is the most enigmatic because, on one hand, it has something strikingly correct. On the other hand, it has something so strikingly wrong. And I think it actually kind of makes the same error as a red pill. Because, let's say if you're a good-looking guy. Now it's thunder. Hopefully my internet doesn't go out. But I don't know if you heard that, but because my mic is facing this way, so probably can't. It's like a dynamic cardioid mic. Don't buy a Blue Yeti, by the way. Blue Yetis suck. Alright, I learned that the hard way. I have to sell mine now. In any case. Okay, let's focus. What the black pill ideology gets correct is that women care about looks and looks matter. But not because necessarily of the reason why they say. Because they break it down to the scientific ratio. And they just leave it at that. The scientific ratio is nearly an explanation of something deeper. Using the word deeper again in this context. But something deeper. Something more in-depth. Okay? Something that goes very deep in. And that is archetypes. We'll go over this more later in the Gordon Ramsay's section of the stream. Kind of leaked what it was going to be, but it's going to be interesting. But women look for a man to fit an archetype. And one of the ways we view archetypes is visually. It's very important. So, very simply, a woman wants a man that is capable. Like strong. Right? So, if a man looks like a geek, how is that archetype going to be fulfilled? It's going to be very difficult. So, in that regard, it does matter a lot. And as far as their own, because I've actually delved a lot into black pill, pretty deep knowledge of it. Depending on what section you read, it's either just rope max if you're not a certain person, or try to looks max if you're a certain person. If you get too far into the weeds of any side, it's kind of dumb. But put simply, just be a little macho. That's I would boil it all down to that. Yeah, just grow some facial hair, depending on, unless you're a white, preppy, well put together guy, then you can clean shave. If you're not, grow some facial hair. Depends on your ethnicity and whatnot as to which facial hair you should grow. If you have nice hair, grow out your hair. If you look masculine, grow out your hair. If you don't, cut your hair shorter. Work out. Put on muscle. Putting on muscle is probably the easiest way to look better, because if you put on muscle, it kind of reforms. I'm using very bro science terms here. Alright, it kind of restructures your face and your body. Pulls the skin. Makes it look more masculine. And the black pill also gets completely wrong the pretty boy thing. The whole pretty boy thing is retarded. Okay, because you're not appealing to women's desires. You're appealing to women's malfigured desires propagated by society. And what happens is that it may work for a little bit, but it won't work forever. And yeah, I would leave that part aside. Now, as for what it gets wrong, aside from that, it's primarily the moral system. I said that already applies to all of them. But the other thing it gets wrong is that it thinks women's perception of an individual is just about how they look. In reality, this is how it works. Okay, this is the simplest way you can put it. A girl sees hot guy. She projects ideas of hot guy onto hot guy. Hot guy comes up. He either fulfills those expectations, in which case he gets a big boost, so it does matter to look good, but if the hot guy comes up and is like, "Hey, how you doing? Top of the morning to ya." Okay, and if you're a hot guy, you'll get a little more leeway. You might even be able to get away with that. You're like, you're kind of funny. But then you do keep doing that over and over and over again, and that's kind of your personality and attitude, and then it falls apart. Okay? So, it's also difficult, no matter how good looking you are. If you're a total spurg, it's hard. Okay? No pun intended. In any case, the solution to all these retarded pill ideologies is just Christianity. Okay? Because Christianity gives you everything you need. So, what is good about red pill? Well, it's actually correct about female nature, generally speaking. Well, the Bible says it all very clearly. In Genesis, it talks about how your husband will rule over you, to Eve. It talks about how women are supposed to be teaching men in the church. It talks about how man is the head of woman. It talks about how woman is supposed to submit to a man as they would to God. There you go. That's everything you need to know about female nature. It talks also about the fall of Adam and Eve and how, because Adam trusted Eve, the whole thing happened. Paul said woman transgressed and man followed. Right? Blue pill. What's good about blue pill? Well, it helps forge long-term relationships because you get that little, you get in a good relationship, you have a little cuddly bear in you, It builds that emotional connection. The Bible says to love your wife. Black pill. That's about looking good, and looking good's important. Well, the Bible talks about taking care of your temple, which is your body. So, as I always say, every single ethical, moral, metaphysical, blah, blah, blah system is really just trying to enunciate, trying to speak of what the Bible has already said very clearly in writing. Just that no one bothers to read the Bible. So they hear about red pill ideology and talking about female nature and they're like, I've never heard that before. Wait. So you're telling me women like guys that are dominant? Stupid. Okay. That was fun. So, alright, let's see what we have left here. We got... I want to do stories. Should I do stories now? Should I do fashion? I don't know. I'm gonna just do this. It's on my whiteboard. Like, you're fake. Okay, that's the one I landed on. Let me mark the things I already done. So that's done. And that's done. Okay. So chances are, if you're watching this, you've probably been living your whole entire life as a fake. Okay? Now, what is a fake? A fake is someone who is one person when they're alone in the room, and they're another person when they go out and talk to other people. And it's very surprising how people fall into the complete fallacy, the complete wronghood of predicating everything on their persona, their mask. And if you don't know what the word predicating means, welcome to 5th grade. But predicating means to put something onto another, in terms of language. So if I say, Toby is John, right? I'm predicating Toby on John. So in this case, they predicate their moral values, they predicate their ideas onto other people. Right? So it's like, well, because society does this, therefore I'm going to do this. And it's very surprising how people think this way throughout the whole entire lives. I work a lot with people that are, I don't work with old people. I work with usually 16 to 24-year-olds. That's like my target age range for people that I work with. And a lot of them have this unconscious affinity with other people's ideas rather than their own, or even values that are of God or of a higher power. I don't like using the term higher power because it's kind of gay, but I'm talking about in their sense, right? It's always on to other human beings, or maybe even some guy on the internet, right? Like me. If you predicate all your values on me, you'll be right, but you shouldn't predicate your values on me. So, in any case, I think one really good example is some people I work with go to high school, and like the things they show me from there is just the most retarded things I've ever seen. So, like the trend, like purple jeans. Hold on. I have to show you guys this because how else am I to fully explicate how this is? Is this it? Yeah, here we go. Okay, hold on. We gotta get this onto here. Great. Okay, there we go. Alright, this brand. Purple jeans. Alright. I have an ultra wide monitor. Not flexing, more like I'm just saying that it's hard to like. Okay, there we go. So, this brand. And everyone at the school wants it so badly. At their school, at least. I'm just looking at their pants. It's like the most basic looking pants. But here's the trend they do. Sick. You know, those pants look gay. Anyways, where are the jeans? Like, there's jeans. Okay, denim. Yeah, obviously, it's gonna be here. There's the jeans, but they have, like, the tag on the... Like, the whole trend is to... Should I just look it up on TikTok? Hold on. Hopefully I don't have to sign in to watch this stuff. But... Those are not purple jeans. Purple jeans. Oh my god, you've got to be joking. Okay, anyways. God, it's never work on the thing. I don't feel like signing in right now. But anyways, these whole jeans, and they're like $350, $600-$700, etc. And these things look like the ugliest pieces of crap ever, or they're just the most basic jeans ever. But people will pay $400 for it. And why would they do that? It's because they go like, oh, well, you know, everyone at my school, like, it's a trend. It's a trend, dude. Like, everyone's on TikTok wearing them. You know, I like them. It's like, do you really like them? It's like, I guess. And then I show them a regular pair of jeans, like, oh, no, I don't want to wear those. It's like, bro, because of what other people say, you therefore do this. And it even applies to people that are doing things that are good. Like, forget the retards that are spending $500 on cheaply made jeans using Chinese child labor. Okay, forget those people. Don't care. Let's talk about the people that are actually, like, working out and trying to improve their lives or whatever. What do they talk about? Oh, man, you know, I'm just locking in. I'm locking in, bro. I'm locking in, you know. I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna come back and see me as a completely new person. That's completely about what other people think. It's gay, okay? And unless you want to be gay, then listen to this. If you first think about everything you do, okay? How many things do you hold back because of what you think other people are going to say? How many things do you do because other people say it? I don't even care if it's your friends, okay? How many things do you do solely because of that? Ask yourself. And then sit alone for a little bit, turn off the phone, no gooning, no coming on your wall. Just sit down and think a little bit to yourself. And go like, you know what? Wow. I live my life as a total fake. And then start doing something creative. Write, draw, so on and so forth. And start doing things that are actually of yourself. Okay? Or of God. There's two... The way I see it is it should be God gives you values, and you purify yourself, the I, and then you work off the I after it's been purified by God. Because you and God aren't one and the same, so it doesn't really make sense for you to like live within God in that sense. It makes more sense to live as yourself connected to God, right? You have to differentiate yourself from God. I see a lot of people with these like spiritual ideas, and they like equate themselves with God. At least it seems that way. And don't do that. It's retarded. Not only is it retarded, it's also wrong. But in any case, just write down what you really believe. And what you write on that paper, what you draw on that canvas, start living that out. Just add it in. You know, maybe you realize these purple jeans are gay. Maybe you realize this Essentials hoodie looks retarded. Maybe you notice that Balenciagas look stupid. You know? Then, you know, start wearing things you actually want to wear. Start doing things you actually want to do. Forget about other people. And that's not be yourself, bro advice. That's just, hey, stop being a faggot advice. Alright? You know, it's always awkward making these streams sometimes, because like I have these videos planned here, and when I'm done, it's like I have this awkward pause. I don't know if it's just awkward for me, but it seems weird. I'm kind of used to just talking the whole way and then ending recording. But, you know, now I'm just going to go on a whiteboard. So I want something else. Okay. Cheat code. Yeah, let's do that one. Alright, the cheat power. Oh, God. Anyways. The cheat code to willpower and success is archetypes. Okay? Now, I hope you know what archetype means. Half you guys are retarded. Okay. What an archetype is it represents an idea. It's like a symbol of an idea. So, example of an archetype is a hero. Think about Rocky Balboa. Alright, you know, he started out in the slums of Philadelphia, then he, you know, made it up to be the champion. We had Rocky Balboa. Cavemen had drawings of guys throwing spears at beasts, and that was their heroes. So the point is, the hero is an archetype. This is something that spans beyond what you and I think. This is of the collective humanity. This is our humanitarian idea. Same thing goes to the idea of what a woman should be, what a man should be. A father, a mother, a king, a tyrant, so on and so forth. And the way you could use archetypes as a cheat code for your own life is to understand that at any given moment, you can see yourself as embodying a certain archetype. So right now, I am embodying the archetype of an entertainer on camera, or an educator, a teacher, so on and so forth. All these different things. I am embodying that right now. And then there's also some things I'm embodying, so when I make a joke, when I call you guys retarded, or a faggot, that's me, and probably shouldn't be using the word so loosely on YouTube. I already said it twice this stream. Maybe not be a good idea, but now I'm being myself. Now I gotta, like, I don't know. Man, maybe I usually censor it later, but I'm streaming, so I don't know if I can do it. Anyways, back to the point. When I make a joke, I'm embodying the trickster a little bit, you know? And when I'm getting deeply philosophical, I'm engaging the sage, you know? So, in your life, at any moment, you are embodying a certain archetype. So, when you are doing a project, and being creative, you're embodying that creative energy. And the thing about archetypes is we naturally embody certain archetypes more than others. So, for example, me, I'm a person very centered around law and order, structure, planning, nerding out. Okay, I'm a nerdy person. All right. So, I tend to be a little uptight sometimes. You know, people start joking. I'm like, you can get serious. You know, let's get serious. You know, stop joking around. That's kind of like my mindset. So I'm over here. All right, and then meanwhile, Jim Bob is over here. You know, he just says retarded things all the time. And the point is that in order to fully achieve our goals, to fully do things good, we have to embody the opposite. Consciously try to integrate the opposite. So for me, very law and order, I'm very strict, very routine-based. Okay, integrate that kind of trickster, playful energy. That's what I have to do. I have to relax a little bit, you know? literally, I have to force myself to waste time. You think something's stupid? Well, do it for a little bit. I have to show myself that, hey, I can, because here's the truth about my life, okay? I can do literally whatever I want. I make money. I can spend $1,000 at any moment's notice. Not a bunch of times over, but if I need to spend $1,000 right now, I can do it. And nothing would happen. Nothing bad would happen. And to give an example, so that's me. Okay, I spend $1,000 at any moment, and I wouldn't be able to pay the bills, or I would still be able to pay the bills. I could still buy inventory for my store, so on and so forth. Meanwhile, someone else I know is in debt, or he's almost in debt, something like that, and he had a negative balance, and he ordered Popeyes to eat. It's a complicated situation for him, but he ordered Popeyes to eat, and I was like, wow. So I'm sitting here with thousands in my bank to do whatever I want, providing for a family. I can wake up whenever I want. I can sleep whenever I want. I can say whatever I want. I can do literally whatever I want. Okay? And here I am, tweaking about spending $15 to buy food on Uber Eats. Because I'm like, $15, because I'm a very law-and-order. I'm very, I'm not necessarily a penny pincher. But I'm more so like, I'm a warrior, one, naturally. And two, I'm a very, focused and, a little pedantic. Like a ruler, kind of nerdy. So, buying food's buying food's a bit of a waste of money. I mean, what if I, used willpower and I just didn't need it? That's where my mind goes. It's kind of gay, but that's where my mind goes. All right? And then he, in credit card debt, just orders Popeyes. And he's like, he's just having fun with it. And I just thought to myself, wow. What a loser I am. And that kind of helped me start realizing that I need to just relax a little bit. This all was happening last night, because this whole stream I was doing, I thought so much about it. I was thinking about what I wanted it to be, what I didn't want it to be. And I kind of just realized, you don't have to stream. You don't have to do anything. You can do whatever you want. You can go to bed at 6 tonight if you wanted to. You could order $50 worth of ice cream, chips, snacks, whatever, and watch a movie tonight. You can wake up at 5 tomorrow. You can do literally whatever you want, so, relax. And the reason why I say all these things is because since I'm over here, I need to start thinking about those type of things. It doesn't mean do it. It doesn't mean start wasting all my time, but it needs, kind of just relax a little bit. Integrate a bit of this playful energy. Now it gets in the middle. Meanwhile, Jim Bob, the retard, who learns nothing, who wastes all his time, goons and comes on walls, he needs to imply some of this ruler type of energy, no. He needs to apply some of that force, because that's what he's lacking. So the cheat power, I said cheat power again, Jesus. The cheat code, the cheat code to willpower, motivation, success, so on and so forth, is literally just seeing what you are and integrating the opposites. What archetype are you? What's the opposite archetype? Okay, integrate a bit of that opposite archetype. And even an opposite archetype that seems a little bit negative. For instance, maybe the critic archetype. The critic. That seems a bit negative. Seems like they'll make you overthink. For someone like me, don't integrate the critic. Okay, the critic is already there. But for someone who doesn't care about anything to do, for someone who just doesn't think about anything, literally, I bet if that critic energy would be good. Because then it starts getting them thinking a little bit. That's what they need. So that's the cheat code. Didn't say cheat power this time. To willpower, motivation, so on and so forth. Just find your opposites and integrate it. That is so useful. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, yeah. So I have 2 stories, and I'm going to do a breakdown. I'm going to do a reaction. Just close it off with that. Stream's fun. Having more fun with this one than the other ones. Alright, so yeah. Bring this up a little bit. It's gonna be funny. And it's gonna be funny for one of the people watching the stream. He's gonna know exactly what I'm talking about, but whatever, let's get into it. So one of the driving forces for me starting this whole movement I'm doing is not only my feeling that I should share all the knowledge I've gained, but it's also an experience I had at a youth camp. So, this was a youth camp where we would be going into a park. No one was there, and we were just going to like a grassy field and we basically just play games, like football, water balloon, so on and so forth. And we had our shirts off because of the nature of this, right? And what I realized is that, wow, all these Christian kids over here have man boobs. If you did a count of how many of them had boobs, man boobs, it would be a very sad picture to paint, okay? And I was looking at all this, and you could say I'm a very, I'm being too observant, I'm being judgmental, so on and so forth. I don't really care, okay? If you think that, oh, you're being judgmental, I don't know, go find a pride parade and participate in it, okay? I was just doing these observations, kind of like, because I'm a very observant person, I'm like, these people, I wonder if they could go to bed at night just, thinking about how they look like this, just look in the mirror. And I was kind of relating it to myself because for a long time I was skinny fat. I wasn't in very good shape. And this was the time period where I just started getting out of that. And I was just looking at them and I was like, these people need help. So you can question how much of a spurg I am for doing this, but I went home and I recorded a video. I recorded a video about why you have man boobs. Why do you have man boobs? Why you have man boobs? And it was actually it was a video going over, I went like, I went to a youth camp and I saw this and that. Because I'm a bit of a spurg for saying that, socially unaware. But I then talked about the solution. And the solutions were actually genuine. The solutions work. Because I also talked about how I used to be like that too. So, I didn't name any names. Alright? But I just made the video, and they kind of knew about my YouTube channel. They didn't really care that much, though. And I just lived my life through them. They were nice to me. They're always nice to me, because I was always kind of like the G of the youth camp. They always respected me, when I was there, at least. When I wasn't there, as far as I tell, like, they did say things, but some of them were, like, kind of jealous. So they would, like, do this, like, mocking thing of me, right? They would just go like this and go like, right? But they didn't do that when I was around. That's all I know. But in any case, I remember my cousin's wife, who is a youth leader, was okay, to set the scene, I was at like a family meetup, and they are closely intertwined with the church, and they were kind of just talking about how, I'm a bit of an extremist. I am an extremist. Now, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but they were kind of just, trudging that line a little bit. And she talking about how, they were getting, they were starting to look up to me, and then they felt really hurt by the video I made. And I was just like, well, it was true. So I'm sorry they feel that way, but, I'm not sorry I made the video. And then, they're kind of like, just what? It's not a good thing. But I was like, I just really don't care. Because, how could you? But you could say I'm socially unaware for kind of saying in the way I did and whatnot. I didn't name them by name. I wasn't mean-spirited in the video. I might have chuckled once or twice, but, I think it was fine. I still do. And ultimately, this is an experience that largely shaped what I'm doing now, because, like, in all honesty, when let's say me, I'm 19 now, so let's say 4 years ago. It's not even that long ago. Like 4 years ago, if there was someone like me telling me what I was telling them in that video, I would have been much better off. Okay, especially if I was even younger than that. I might have actually learned that porn was bad for me. I might have actually learned that, exercising is actually worth it, and exercising can be fun. Because I remember for so long, working out was just this thing where it was like, I get to do it once a week, and then it's like, well, I can do it 3 times, and then I just end up not doing it at all. I'm trying to do all the push-ups and sit-ups, and I was still looking fat, and I just didn't know what to do. And then now, I work out very consistently, and it's very easy to do. This doesn't take much effort. You just do it, right? I like doing it. All the other things I've learned, And, I've made a lot of mistakes in my time of learning, and since this time period and before that time period, but ultimately, the big things I've learned is that there's something greater than yourself. And because of that, you need to pay respect to yourself with that in mind. God exists. God is real. If you're fat, that's an abomination to God. It's that simple. It's a value. You could say I'm saying it in a brash, and abrasive way. I don't really care. It's true. Say it whatever nice cupcake way you want to say it. But that's the way you need to start viewing your life. I have fun telling that story. Alright, next one is dressing one. Okay. Okay. So, dressing like a man will completely change your life. So, remember when I was younger, I used to dress like a geek. Alright? Jeans, sneakers, like a graphic t-shirt, looking like a 10-year-old. I thought I had so much swag. Yeah, I literally thought about, when I was younger, man, this is a swaggy outfit. This is swag. Swag is like Swaggy P, like Nick Young, from NBA. And essentially, I lived for a very long time dressing like a YN. Wow, I was actually about to say the hard R. I can't do that on stream. I don't think, I said F slur. I think YouTube allowed that, but I don't think hard R is going to make it by. So, a YN, that's how I dressed. And, I never really got female attention. In school I did, actually, in third grade. I remember this one time. In third grade, I was sitting in the bus, and there was these 3 girls that were in a grade above me, and they were so obsessed with me. They would always talk to me. They would talk about me, so on and so forth. But I was kind of a dunce, so I didn't really understand. I just thought they were just they just want to talk, right? And then I think maybe in 5th or 6th grade, but after that I got homeschooled, so it wasn't really much outward experience with women. And generally speaking, I didn't care, quote unquote, about female attention. I did, but I said I didn't. That's basically all that means, right? And I remember, and there was one day where I had a wedding. Okay. It was my cousin's wedding. And I was like, okay, I have to dress a little nicely. And this happened to coincide just around the time where I started taking my life a little bit more seriously. So I was like, you know what? No, why don't I try this style where I dress a little bit more formally? Because it's a wedding, after all, right? I have to dress a little bit formally. It's more like a cocktail party attire. It's not like a dinner suit kind of attire. But it's like, okay, well, let me get a little fancy, quote unquote. So I got a leopard dress shirt. Now I think about it, that's the least formal thing I could have worn, but it's a button shirt, so I thought it was oh my god, super formal, right? And I wore these chukka boots, they're chukka boots, and I wore black slacks, right? And the outfit looked pretty good. I also had these gold bracelets, I had a necklace on, I think I had 2 of them. My hair was out, I had sunglasses on. I was feeling pretty good. I was looking at myself, I was like, I look like a celebrity. And you know what? On that day, I realized the value of dressing like a man. Okay, because even in that case, it was more like a cocktail party, party attire, right? But even then, it was still, there's a masculine element to it. It wasn't just me wearing, Jordans and some gay YN outfit. But it was me wearing something substantial. And I was getting so many compliments. I was like, wow. And I just started losing weight, so my beautiful face started looking better, and they would look at me differently, And then I remember, and I was 16 at the time. So my cousin's wife, who got married, was it 3 or 4? I think it was 3 or 4 friends that were coming from other states to go to the wedding. And we were at the dance floor, and we were having fun. Okay, we're dancing, whatever. And there was this girl. Okay, there was this white chick. I don't remember her name. We'll just call her Tiffany. Okay, it was actually something like Tiffany. But there's an F in it, like towards the middle. But let's call her Tiffany. She was there, and it was like 3 black girls, or 2 black girls, and 1 white girl. And they basically said, I was there at the dance floor. I was just chilling. Okay. And they brought this white girl out, and they basically pushed her right in front of me, essentially. And like, she's here and I'm here, and keep in mind, she's in like a full-grown woman, me 16, and I look old. Okay, I'm 19 right now, so imagine how I looked at 16. I had facial hair back then, fully grown, like goatee, and I think I had a mustache at the time too. And it was just the most awkward thing ever, because I may have looked a bit more like a G, but I was still a loser. Okay, so kind of just standing in front of each other, and it was kind of like, she was a nice girl, so she was like, oh my god, this is so awkward. She was nice, we were just laughing, it kind of didn't go anywhere. But I found that experience to be super funny, and I kind of went home, and I was kind of like, wow, they think I'm attractive? Wow. And to cut a long story short, this isn't necessarily a video about me just talking about my female interaction, whatever, but this is me talking about, generally speaking, the life changes you get when you start dressing like a man. I recall, I started getting even more formal. I got Henleys that were buttons. I would undo the buttons a little bit. I was starting to put on muscle. I was filling out my clothing. And you just notice that people treat you so differently. Like when you dress like a teenager YN, okay, and you look like a geek, they don't really care about you. But all of a sudden I was being stopped at random places. People were like telling me their life story, and they wanted to hear things from me. They were so interested. Women giving me attention, so on and so forth. And it's not just because I would dress. I'll admit that. It's also because of how I look, right? But I was just like, wow. This has made such a difference in my life. I wish I did it before. And that's what I want you guys to understand. It seems like a big leap to dress with more. I'm not saying you have to wear like button-ups and suits, right? But just something a little bit more proper, like a polo or Henley, so on and so forth. Pop the collar, put on a necklace, so on and so forth. And some of you guys are worried about looking like geeks. I understand you're worried about looking like a geek. The thing that makes you look like a geek is when you like do it all preppy, like your mom dressed you for school. Like you put on the buttons all the way up, and you're like standing like you have a broom up your anus, and you're like a salute and whatever. Then you look like a geek. But if you just pop the collar, put on a necklace, put on like a wrist bracelet, so on and so forth, get the clothes nice and fitted, you'll look good. And people will respect you, and your life's going to start to change. One of the biggest changes I've made in my life is not only just taking care of my appearance more, but more specifically, dressing more like a man. Okay? Because if you dress like a man, they're going to treat you like a man, and there's not many men around, so you'll be special. You're only 50 minutes late. Yeah, I just finished another video, so I actually have 2 now, so you missed all the stories, so just telling the story about man boobs you probably would have found funny. But yeah, I'm going to do a reaction, I'm going to do a breakdown. So I'm going to do the breakdown first. Cool thing about this headset is that, let me see how this looks. Yeah, I don't look like a complete geek wearing it. I remember my old headset. Just look how cheap this thing looks compared to this. This looks professional. Okay, looks nice. It's wireless too, thank God. And this one, it served me pretty well, but it looks like a cheap piece of crap, right? And when I put it on, I can hear my AC so loud, and it's just like the red accent just makes me look like a geek. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit too nitpicky, but the only thing I like about this one still is it has more range than the other one. So if I go to walk in my backyard while I'm in VC, it's better, but that's about it. This one's also way more comfortable. I wonder if this thing, okay. Whatever. Alright, first we're going to be doing a breakdown. Another thing I like about this headset is usually when I wear a headset while I'm talking, it sounds weird, but this one, I like it. like lose concentration because of it. So, okay, it's on. So, this will be one of the most useful videos you'll ever watch on women. Okay? And if you're on stream, you're seeing it live. Alright? And this is going to come from an unlikely source, but just bear with me, you're going to see. So let me pull this up on YouTube. Let me get all this ready. Yeah, we are watching Hell's Kitchen. You'd be very surprised. The gems that are in this series, primarily because Gordon Ramsay is a very good archetype to study. Well, let me, okay, yeah. There we go. Whiteboard. Now, here's the thing. I don't... Oh, there it is. Great. It's in the thumbnail. Amazing. Okay, so... Alright, let's close that out. Get this ready. Alright, so this clip I'm going to show you is going to be a perfect representation of what women want. Okay, it's going to embody everything. You're going to understand why all your relationships fail. You understand why women don't like you, so on and so forth. It's incredible what you could find from it, and I just remembered I have to change my audio output so you can actually hear it. You can hear. Does that work? No, it does not. Is that? Okay, there we go.
It's the second night.
Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay, there we go. So let's first break all this down. First, to give you an idea of what we're looking for. So, women want a man in a triad. They're looking for a triad here. And don't get confused. Don't bring up Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Not talking about that right now. So, don't think I'm talking about God. I'm not. It's just triad because tri equals 3. Okay? So, it's 3 things. I'll draw it like this. So we're looking for, and I made one really big. This is my drawing skills in full display. Just do that. Alright, so, Guardian. Actually, no, let's do this at the top. So, do King, Guardian, and then Outlaw. Actually, no. No, screw that. We're doing 4. I just thought about this. Be a lot more useful if I did 4. Okay. So, great. So I won't use triad or trinity now, so it's good. Makes it less confusing. They're looking for a quad. Okay, a 4. 4. 4 what? 4 archetypes. This builds up their image of man, which we'll call dominators. And basically, the way it works is that when a woman is evaluating whether or not a man is who they want, they compare it to an idea of what a man should be. So if you match what a woman thinks you should be as a man, they have no choice but to like you. Okay? And this is how you do it. So you have the king. That archetype. What is that? Law and order. Ruling. You know? Things should be like this, and things are going to be like this. Outlaw. Defiant of social norms. Right? Is willing to defy law and order for the sake of their own ideals or another person's ideals. So they aren't like stuck in a cage, okay? You know, they can be a king and rule, but they can also be a beast and traverse the world on their own accord. So you have the king, you have the outlaw, you have the lover. So this is the cuddly bear. Like, oh, I love you so much. And like I said earlier in the stream, the red pill would make you think that's dumb. You shouldn't do that. And that's because they're oriented towards just having sex. I'm thinking about a long-term relationship. You need to cupcake a little bit if you want a good relationship. Now, here's the thing. It's 4. Okay, it's not just 1. So You know, just don't just do that. Because what happens to most guys is they get too comfortable and they just end, you know, cuddling all day, like, and then, you know, like the girl's like, oh, you don't have to work out, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that, and they're like, and then they do that for like 3 months and then end up hating each other. So don't overemphasize any of these. And then you have the Guardian. So this is the protective force. Like, you get kind of jealous, you kind of keep her away from other people in like a protective manner, right? And it's also protective of other people. So basically, this all culminates in this Dominaris archetype, which is the male archetype, is what a man should be. And if you fulfill this archetype in a woman's mind, they have no choice but to like you. Okay? They have no choice but to respect you, have no choice but to do what you say, so on and so forth. And not because you're forcing them, but because it's just their nature, right? So, what does this have to do with Gordon Ramsay? You gotta see it. Okay.
Come back. So, risotto one, yes? Risotto one, good. Concentrate on that first. Yes?
Give me a pair of tongs,
Okay.
please.
Risotto one. Now, I don't mind jumping in there and helping out. I'm trying to run the blue at the same time, work and talk at the same time, and stay calm. I'd rather be slower and hot, yes, than stone cold, yeah, and fast.
Yes, chef.
One risotto,
So here's the kingly
one
archetype.
root. Good.
Explaining, leading, do this, do that.
Let's go.
It's hot.
2 spaghetti, 1 risotto, 1 quail, yes? I'll start
Coming out.
the spaghetti. Yes?
Have it.
Where's-
It's in
yeah,
the
I'm looking for the pan.
Chef.
A woman will find very few things more attractive than a guy who's just really good at something. And a master of their craft. So you wonder how some of these Fortnite nerds can get a girl. It's like, well, you know, usually they lose them because they're a loser, but, you know, the aspect of being an expert, the aspect of being a master at something, that's very attractive.
Where's the large pans?
Chef, I don't leave here.
Stove on.
Yes, sir.
It is on. Is it on max? Okay. So, is how long has
Your control, king,
we're,
experts.
that's buzzing away there nicely. This one's lightly frying. A little bit of salt in there, and we season. Now we put our tomato in there to start making the fresh tomato sauce. No, no.
Tomato.
This one first, and we bind it with the tomato sauce. So let's work this one out then. Risotto's coming down nicely. Spaghetti's on.
Yes, chef.
Lobster, where is it? Good. Now,
Now, where's the part? Okay, it's gonna be soon. Now, this is the part.
damn. You okay?
Okay, so like that was probably like a 600-degree burn or whatever. Serious burn. Okay, this is not like your mom's kitchen where it's usually like a 300-degree oven. Okay, their ovens are like 600, stuff like that. So burn.
Come here.
Bad situation.
Calm down. There you go. Right.
So now, and this will be more contrasted earlier by what he says later. But now you have the gentle, caring aspect.
Got water. Jean-Philippe.
Guardian.
Jean-Philippe.
Jean-Philippe.
Jean-Philippe. Get me some ice, please. Now.
And then you kind of get that. That's like that rebel and outlaw. So we have like some outlaw. We have a little bit of lover because like there's kind and tenderness. There's guardian, like protective energy.
There you go. Big deep breath. There you go. Good girl. Good girl. Up. There you go. Big deep breath. Yeah, but you see what happened?
Yes, chef.
We have a serious burn.
Yes, chef.
Then what do you
Calm,
do
relaxed.
to me on the hot plate? You bring the hot pan to me. No, but are you listening to me? And give me an answer.
Yes, chef. I
Yeah,
hear you.
right now.
And then you have like him getting a little angry. Some more outlaw energy.
I'm not in
So you
a
see, there's a
fucking mood
balance of all
to
these
sit around.
things.
Do you understand?
Yes, chef.
Do you understand?
Yes, chef.
So when something's that fucking stupidly piping hot,
Then there's more force.
we get rid of it.
Because, like, if you're a man of respect, a woman will find very few things in this. I said this, saying this again. A woman will find very few things more attractive than being reprimanded. Okay? And a lot of you guys might think that's crazy, but I mean, sometimes girls even talk about it on their TikTok. Like, they have TikTok posts. I remember someone I work with showed me this TikTok where it's like, starting a play fight with a guy so he can dominate me or something like that. And it's kind of like the same thing. They make this caption where it's like, oh, when he puts me in my place or whatever. And on psychology textbooks I've read, talk about women's personal accounts in deep, private, psychological settings. They find very few things more attractive than getting reprimanded by a man worthy of respect. Okay? So you have that energy. It's like the dad energy. Like, no, don't do that again. Then there's also the love energy, like, here, it's okay.
Big deep breath. Do you understand?
Yes.
Risotto, one sunshine.
Yes, chef.
Nurse is outside.
And then you have, let's see, where does he get pissed off at someone?
John Philip, I don't want that commotion here. Take it away and lose the virginity. Go.
So what is that? That's outlaw. That's socially unacceptable behavior. But he does it anyway. You know why? Because he doesn't care. Because he is Gordon Ramsay. He does whatever he wants. That's the energy he's giving off. Okay? That's the type of energy you need to give off as well. It doesn't mean... And here's the thing. You should be able to embody all these archetypes naturally. If you have to force any of these, then you're doing it wrong. Okay? It should be your natural extensions of yourself. But the... That's funny. But when you can embody all of these, you're balanced. Okay? When you have that, you're fitting that archetype. So you need all of it. Okay? Don't focus on any one of these too much.
Yes.
10 minutes, chef. 10 minutes, chef.
2 minutes.
So rude.
Fair now.
Yes,
You know
chef.
that. Everyone's just shouting 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Do you know what's going on?
Hands on hips. You know, scolding them, bad energy.
What's coming now?
I'm having a...
Up away, one risotto away.
Yes, chef.
But realize it's just not on all of these. He's also a master. He's an expert. An expertise. You can even make this a 6. Or, excuse me, a 5. You can add expertise. X/master. You could add that too.
SP, how long for the window? It's not 5 yet. Start cooking it. Yes, chef. You dick. And taste that. Taste that there. Just taste that. That's not pickled braised cabbage. That's like candy floss. Get some fucking cabbage, get it sliced, and start cooking it. Yes, chef. You dick.
So there's more outlaw energy, socially unacceptable behavior, but he doesn't care. He does it anyway. So I'll leave it at that. But this thing, you need to. The thing that makes you can make it irresistible is embodying all these different archetypes. Okay, not relying just on one, but all these different things. You pick at all these different things. If you can culminate all these things, you end up being representing the dominaris, the collective dominaris, which each individual woman will have an affinity towards. And at that point, they have really no choice but to like you. It's like better advice you can get than basically Enter the Red Pillar, because I'm actually talking about real psychology, not just retard science, female nature, whatever people talk about. If it's real, but like just talking about that's retarded. It's more than that. It's archetypal. Okay, that was fun. Now we're going to be doing the reaction. This will be the last section of the video. Gen Z's addiction to locking in. Let's do this. So let me it's a bit awkward because I have an ultra wide, so I think I might just... Am I gonna... How am I gonna do this? Can I just, Oh, I can just do that. Okay, that works. Okay. Gen Z's addiction to locking in. Let's get into this.
This year is my year. I'm gonna delete Instagram and focus on my goals. And what's that? This year is my year. I'm gonna delete TikTok, wake up at 6 a.m., start a dropshipping store, do some push-ups, and finally get my shit together. This year is my year. I swear I'm gonna delete TikTok. Wake up at 5 o'clock every single morning, meditate, journal, manifest my dreams, dump everything into an NFT, get rich in crypto, and then I'm gonna find... Okay, this year is...
Basically, everyone who goes through the cycle is trying to run from the problems instead of confronting the problems. So a lot of people do is they go like, well, you know what, I am going to achieve something. And really that achievement is trying to cope for something else. It's compensation. And when that happens, the psyche pulls you back towards the middle, and it's like, no, you don't.
Waking up at 4 a.m., going on a dopamine detox. I read Atomic Habits, taking cold showers, listen to a few Huberman podcasts, so now I know I'm ready for this.
Andrew Huberman's such a normie.
This year is 3 a.m. up, 5 side hustles, red light sauna. I still gotta delete TikTok. This is my winter arc. This year, I swear I'm actually locked. This year, wake up at midnight, straight into an icy lake, starting my personal brand, 10-mile run backwards, push-pull legs Arnold split, deleting my entire phone.
Arnold split sucks.
No friends, no distractions, 4 years of monk mode. I will locking in. A term that mainly Gen Z has been making popular recently, which can be summed up as just getting serious, to lock your attention onto a single thing. And that thing can be less serious stuff, like playing a video game or trying not to laugh at something serious. But I want to lock in, focus, get it, never mind. On the more serious side, that when someone says they're going to lock in, it means to really get your shit together and focus on whatever thing you want to achieve, which is typically a big goal that we have for ourselves. Usually referring to things like going to the gym or studying or something related to money, whatever. And on its own, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this at all. Locking in is necessary for doing anything worthwhile. But the problem with locking in is that it's only useful if you actually do it, but barely anyone does. We've all had that 2 a.m. motivation when we wake up and just start pacing in our rooms. When we saw a video of someone hour.
Yeah, so the 2 a.m. motivation thing, everyone misinterprets it. Because what they do is they have this spark of like, oh my god, I should work, I should do something, there's something important to do. And then what they do is immediately go and do it. It's like, no, you're doing it wrong. You're just going to go back to being a loser. What you have to do, and I know this sounds very counterintuitive, but what you have to do is you have to rest in that feeling, and then instead of trying to move forward, you need to move back into your own mind. You need to figure out why you were the way you were before. And when you do that, you start breaking up these complexes within your own mind, and then that unlocks your energy. Because before, your energy gets caught up in these complexes. So if you can undo those complexes by bringing them to light and breaking them apart through thinking, your energy can then flow to what you're doing and not get blocked. Because the whole reason why you're a loser is simply because your energy gets blocked up in these retarded complexes, which make you go do things that are degenerate. So let's say you have a complex about love. Okay, well, it makes you goon. Okay? So it's very important that you don't take the bait. Alright? What you have to do is you have to resist that temptation to just immediately go start working. Just observe yourself. Understand yourself more. Because then that will make you actually work and lock in forever, basically. The thing that keeps you in the cycle is the complexes within you.
Age, making $150,000 a month, and to buy their parents a new house with a Rolls Royce. So we start planning on becoming a millionaire in 6 months. We start researching and watching videos. Maybe go do a couple of push-ups and squats. We delete TikTok and Instagram from our phones. Maybe even pull out a journal and write down some plans about something. And we swear we're gonna go to the gym tomorrow. And then
Yeah, you see, like, he's doing too much at once. And again, not only are they not taking the observation phase, but they're also just doing way too much at once. Like, you shouldn't be doing all these things at once. Like, you need to observe, which basically means break down your whole entire life. So it means literally do nothing. In order to do something, you first have to do nothing. Like, do not go from gooning 24 hours to trying to go to the gym for 24 hours. Go from gooning 24 hours to observing yourself for 24 hours. And if you end up gooning in that time, observe it and understand why you did it. That's actually going to bring about change.
you go to bed, wake up, re-download TikTok the next day, and just repeat the cycle over and over and over again. And, like, it sounds kind of funny because we all kind of been through it, but in all seriousness, it's insanity. It's demoralizing. It gets beyond frustrating when time keeps passing, but for some reason, we're not where we want to be in our lives. When we're not even on the path. When you haven't locked in like you swore you were going to do, and now it's 2025, and you're in the same spot you had been for over half a decade. When it's your literal 40th attempt saying you're going to do something, and you don't even believe or trust yourself anymore. Like, it's not even sadness or anger. It's just numbness. But why exactly does that happen? Like, why is it so difficult to do the things we swore we want to do? Yet it's so easy to do the things that we know won't help us long term. And it's not even like we don't want these things or don't even know how to get them. Because if you have an internet connection.
Here's the thing, we don't. People don't really want the things. You'd be very surprised at what your mind really wants for you. Your mind, most of you guys, your mind loves nothing more than to take L's. Okay, because here's the thing. Like, gooning is taking an L. But here's the thing. When you gooned, you felt alive. So you love it. You go back every single day. You go back and do it every single time because it makes you feel alive. And that's what you really want. You crave something that makes you feel alive. And to you, porn is that thing. So we start trying to take it away. Nothing good happens. And a lot of people might look at that and go like, okay, well, then I'm gonna go out and socialize because that makes me feel alive. That's better. But here's the thing. You're still not even attacking the problem. You're gonna find other problems in your life afterwards. Because this whole feeling of needing to be alive in this context, and any other issue, but just using that as an example, is tied to a deeper psychological issue. And if you don't deal with that deeper psychological issue, you can get rid of porn, but you're still gonna have the problem. It's gonna manifest in different ways. So what you have to do is very simple. Go to that psychological issue. And once you break that up, you'll feel alive just by existing. And that's how you should be. You should do things because you feel like doing them, not because you need it in some way like, oh, I gotta feel alive, oh, I gotta feel this, I gotta feel that. You should be content with just existing. Should be all you need.
Which you have to be for watching this video, you can easily figure out exactly how to get exactly what you want out of life. Hundreds of millions of people have that ability, but then why can't people do it? Why can't people focus? Why can't people stick with something longer than 75 days? Why will 90% of people live the same year over and over and over again? Why can't Gen Z seem to lock in? Well, first of all, it's not just Gen Z who can't lock in, but almost every human for all time. Because focusing on long-term goals outside of survival inherently goes against human nature and the way our minds work. But more on that in a second. And second off, why exactly is locking in so important? Because if you research different people who've done any...
That's wrong. Humans used to embody archetypes of society. So there would be like a builder, there would be a blacksmith, so on and so forth. And they would just do that for their whole lives and get really good at it. So I don't think that's correct. That's outside of just merely survival. Unless he's grouping that in with that.
Anything worthwhile in any domain. They all got there doing different things during different times, but the one common denominator between all of them is intense focus over a long period of time on one thing, which is definitionally, I don't know if that's an actual word, locking in. If you want to become world champion, you need to log in. If you want to revolutionize personal computers, you need to log in. If you want to lead the civil rights movement, you need to log in. If you want to make legendary films, you need to log in. Even if you don't want to change the world, but you just want to have a family, provide for them, be in shape, and live a simple life, you still need to log in. Because we all have a certain amount of energy and time. And if you spread out this energy evenly amongst 1,000 different seeds, the most impressive thing you'll ever grow is 1,000 blades of grass. But if you're actually able to put your energy onto one thing, sure, you might not have 1,000 blades of grass, but the one thing you will have is an oak tree. And this idea of locking in is so ingrained in us that it's been seen throughout several stories and myths throughout history. Like, for example, the Buddha. He lived his life of luxury and comfort so he could sit under a tree and fully focus.
Like, hey, as an archetype, Buddha, whatever. But, like, really, you're going to talk about Buddha? Like, really? The gayest thing to talk about. Oh, well, the example for my locking in video is going to be Buddha. Really, Buddha? It's so cringe. How about Jesus Christ? You know? Someone who's actually real. And not only real, but also embodies the perfect archetype of a human being, because he's fully man, while being fully God. Buddha. That's so cringe.
On finding enlightenment. And monks are basically the definition of being locked in. They remove all distractions and everything that brings temporary, mindless pleasures, so they can focus.
And this whole Buddhist thing of like just like trying to get rid of all desires or whatever, it's so stupid. It doesn't. If you guys try going monk or Buddha mode, it's not going to work. Okay, because it doesn't. It's based on retarded metaphysics. If he keeps talking about it, I'll just go more into it, but it doesn't work.
Finding peace. This is also why we have the term monk mode, which is just another version of locking in. Even a lot of philosophers talk about removing distractions and focusing on what's actually important in their lives, and how chasing temporary mindless pleasures gets you nowhere.
Marcus Aurelius, mid. Cringe, mid. Cock. Okay? Like, for his time, Marcus Aurelius was revolutionary and was very good for his time, though. Now we have things that are much better.
Long term. Because even eons ago, they understood that having your energy spread all over the place doesn't get you anywhere and leads to an empty life. And also in almost every single story with a hero's journey, they have to lock in and focus relentlessly on changing into a better person or overcoming a huge obstacle. Even in a lot of shows or movies or entertainment, if you think about it, a lot of the time, a lot of people's favorite or most memorable parts is when the character gets serious, when their eyes change, and you can tell that they don't care about anything else other than the goal. Especially in sports, when an athlete is in the zone or they have tunnel vision and they just even if you look at different biographies of people in the not too distant past, or motivational speakers, or people who are alive today, they all mention the focus, the grind, the locking in, how they went through periods of relentless focus and they removed distractions so they could really get shit done. And how even during those moments, even though they weren't all sunshine and rainbows, they look back at those moments in admiration because it molded them into becoming a better human being. And I think locking in is
True.
something that we all subconsciously strive towards, because we all know that it's the closest answer we have to the big question, how to be happy. Because if you've ever actually been locked in, or
If you're trying to make your life so you can be happy, you're retarded. Because it doesn't work. Like, you shouldn't... Because, perfect example, okay? Think about something really nice. Think about puppies. You get really happy. And now hold that for 2 hours. And feel like shooting yourself. Right? You shouldn't try to be happy. You should try to be whole. You should try to be fulfilled. Right? Life is not about happiness. It's... like, retarded people think that.
gotten into a flow state, or just have gotten lost in the progression of an activity, you know that it's one of the best feelings that you can experience.
Flow state is a much better term.
Not buying something, not doom scrolling, not giving into instant gratification pleasures, but the climb itself towards a worthy goal that we decide on, even if it's hard and challenges us. Basically, locking in isn't even a new concept, but if we all know it's important, not just important, but necessary, and it's been around for eons, and today we have more tools and information to mold ourselves into whoever we want to become, then why doesn't it work? Like, obviously it does work, folks will never hurt you, but then why do 95% of people never actually get the results they want to?
Alright, explain this.
We lock in. Okay, well, there's 4 big reasons why locking in doesn't work for most people. For one, most people have no why. Most people don't even start with a reason, the purpose of
true.
why they're deciding to lock in. They say they want to change, but don't even know why. Like,
And this is why you need an ethical and moral system in place in order for this to make any sense. Because when you lock in, you're saying people should be like this or I should be like this. How do you ground your should statements? What gives any force to a should? Is it people's opinions? Is it, well, that's just how it is? Fallacy? People's opinions also a fallacy? Is it evolution? Not true, but also a fallacy? Why should people do anything? That's a good question.
why go to the gym? Why start a business? Why study? Why make money? Why wake up at 4 a.m.? Those things are not bad to do at all. But if you don't have a damn good reason on why you're doing them, you will not do them by yourself long term. Because we all have this thing called a brain, and your brain is going to control your automatic baseline behaviors. And your brain is brilliant, but it's also lazy. Not because it's trying to.
And he's focusing, like the brain, like dopamine, oh my god. When people start talking about neurons, receptors, dopamine, it's like, it's so cringe. Because it does matter, but it's subordinate to the non-physical mind, to the spiritual mind. Subordinate. Okay? These things only matter when the non-physical mind has been dealt with.
Be lazy. It's just because it's trying to be efficient. And your brain doesn't care about anything except surviving long enough to reproduce. Everything else it will put in as little effort as possible. And your brain will always automatically focus on 2 things.
Yeah, that's so just by how this is probably going to go, the human nature, the animal nature, the difference between man and human, or man and animal, okay, is that animals just have an animal nature. Humans have a spiritual nature and an animal nature. Okay, we have an additional spiritual nature. So the road is basically going to go down just reducing humans to an animal. Like, oh, well, we have these biological impulses and we're going to have to like work around them. And that's, all we're going to do. That's like subordinate to the higher spiritual ideas, because we aren't just balls of meat with impulses. Like, to get like really philosophical, if you take this position of just like human nature, the brain, whatever, you don't have free will, because you can't control the brain chemicals that are going around. You can't control when your neurons get fired. I mean, go fire a neuron, force yourself to fire this specific neuron. You can't do it. It's a physical process you have no control over. You just don't have any control over it unless you posit. That means you have no free will unless you posit some sort of non-physical spiritual soul that allows you to control your human body and is separate from your human body. In Christianity, we have this. We say when the human body dies, the soul doesn't die necessarily. It might go to hell, but it's not connected to the body. It doesn't just cease to exist. So yeah, this is everything you say based on that is mostly going to be wrong, or just subordinate information that isn't important with the more important information taken into account first.
Needs and wants. Needs are different things like breathing, food, water, shelter, safety, like stuff like that. Your brain will literally fight to the death to meet these things. Like literally, it will put your life at risk and put you in danger until those needs are covered. This is why I usually see people doing extreme things during life or death situations, because your brain is no longer messing around. This thing needs.
And again, I'm not saying everything he's saying is wrong here, but I'm saying that it's subordinate. Like, this should be something you're focusing on later, after the spiritual aspects have been dealt with.
To get done. And then there are wants, things that don't need to happen, but your brain still wants them. I like to think about these things as pleasures, dopamine, and comfort. But because it's efficient, it's always going to go towards the lowest hanging wants first. Pleasures that are the easiest and fastest to get. So unless you actively try to fight it via awareness or willpower or discipline, whatever, your brain is just going to do whatever it can to keep you alive and then chase short-term pleasures until you die. Just try it for a day. Just let your brain make all the automatic decisions. You're probably going to do nothing the entire day except just sit there and survive and just give into instant gratification activities and just be lazy. Anyways, the reason...
Yeah, and that's the point. You're supposed to do that so then you can change. Because then you can start seeing why you are the way you are. And then you break those things down and then you actually go to change. So it's funny how we just said in passing the actual thing you're supposed to do when you're trying to start to quote-unquote lock in. That's the first thing I tell everyone to do. Everyone I work with. You have to observe first. Because when you observe... Okay. Start understanding yourself. When you start understanding yourself, you start breaking up this complex and you can start transmuting your energy towards higher ideals, spiritual ideals. And that will include earthly things as a byproduct, like making money, working out, getting jacked, so on and so forth. So, that's funny.
So hard to focus on boring things, especially long term, is because our brain is fighting us the entire time. Because it doesn't understand why we're trying to force it to do something it doesn't need to do, because it doesn't care about your goals. The things we want to achieve are not needs, and if it's not a need, your brain will default to going towards easier wants. Like, you don't need to get in shape, you want to. You don't need to start a business, you want to. You don't need to do a lot of things because the world can handle all of that for you. And the stuff you want out of life will make you feel good eventually, but the path to getting there is long and boring, uncomfortable, and risky. And your brain hates those things, especially when it can feel good instantly all the time. So unless it's truly important to you and your brain, you will never...
The useful part of looking at this is understanding how they weaponize human nature. Because what he's saying here is about the instant gratification stuff. It's true because humans suppress their spiritual nature in favor of the human nature. When they target the human nature just by trying to exploit things like dopamine and scrolling and porn and whatever, it works because of that. So it is important to recognize this stuff.
Inevitably fold. Think back to whenever you're working on anything. Automatically, probably several times, your brain will ask you, why? And if you don't have a good answer to that question, your brain will just slowly turn off. But then imagine those times whenever you had a good why for something. It feels like you have almost this unlimited restless energy. Like, have you ever had a day in which you had something huge planned for the next day and you were able to wake up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning with almost zero effort? Almost like your brain automatically woke you up. It's because you were actually excited to get up because you had a strong reason why to get up. Versus the days whenever you hype yourself up with some empty promises, you don't plan anything, you don't have a why, you just saw someone else doing it, and now that 5 o'clock alarm goes off, and there's gonna be a 90% chance you're gonna hit snooze and go right back to bed. And it is kind of corny, but it's that quote where it's like, any why can be any how. Because if you have a strong enough why, you will do it.
Quoting Nietzsche is gay, by the way. Nietzsche is cringe.
And the reason why can be good or bad. If someone put a gun to your head, is one of those things we've heard our entire lives. And it shows us that we will do crazy shit we don't want to do if you have a good reason behind it, even if it's negative. Same.
Yeah, so, and like, just framing like this is dumb because it's really just, this guy's just setting it up. That, from what I can see, we're 10 minutes in, there's 19 left, so let's see if he'll say something else. But as of now, it just seems like he's going to set it up to where he's basically going to set you up to where you're coping in a different way. So you're coping for your own voids within your own soul with porn, TikTok, so on and so forth. And now he's going to replace it with, well, just going to the gym, whatever. At least that's what it seems like so far.
With if someone gave you $1 billion, shows the crazy shit we will do trying to chase a huge reward. But most people usually have neither of those. They're just floating around in the middle. They don't have a pain they're running from or a huge reward to chase. So a big reason people can't lock in or focus on something long term is because they don't even have a good, strong reason why behind it. Like, it needs to be something bigger than, I want to get rich or I want a six-pack. But like, why? And why that? If someone says they want a six-pack but don't really have a good reason why, then there's a 90% chance they just won't do it. But then if someone says they want a six-pack because they were bullied their entire lives and they want to prove to themselves that they can do it, that's a much stronger why that will push them.
Yeah, that will get them to do it, but it's out of cope. So when they get it, they won't really feel it. Because here's the thing. Okay, the example always used for everyone, and this basically tells you if you're a materialist or someone that actually acknowledges the full nature of humans. So, would you rather feel like you had a Lambo but not have one? Or would you just rather have a Lambo but not feel like you have a Lambo? If you answered that you would rather have the Lambo and just not feel like it, then you just don't understand how any of this stuff works. Okay? Because what do you get from a Lambo? That's actually important. The feeling. It's just metal formed in a certain way that has lights on and can move. Right? That's not very special intrinsically. But you apply specialness based on the feeling and thoughts associated with it. Right? So that's kind of the point. you have to understand that there's more than just these physical objects. Okay? You have to understand there's more than just the, well, I have a six-pack now. Because here's the thing. The guy he just brought up in the example, when that kid gets a six-pack, sometimes you look in the mirror and like it, but he's going to keep thinking, I want more. I want more. I want more. Because he never really fulfilled the issue. Okay? It was just a cope. Getting the six-pack was a cope. And most of the time they don't even get it. Because they don't even know what they're doing to get a six-pack.
Do things that they don't want to do, even when they don't want to do it. For most people, the goal disappears for themselves.
Like, if you're living your life doing things you don't want to do because of, like, discipline and, like, locking in, you have no idea what you're doing.
As soon as they put their phone in their hand, it's not something that's so important to them that it bothers them not going towards it. Something so important to them that doing anything outside of the progression of that goal seems like a waste of time. Something that would be the last thing on their mind whenever they go to sleep and the first thing on their mind whenever they wake up. If you can find that thing and focus on it, then locking in becomes almost automatic, because then you simply do whatever it takes to achieve that goal. But most people never have a bigger reason other than voice on the internet told me to take cold showers, and they're not surprised whenever they can't keep it up. 2. Most people have extreme short-term thinking and low attention spans. Most people see locking in as a quick sprint, not even a 100-meter sprint, more like a 40-yard or a 20-yard dash when it's actually an ultra-marathon that never really truly ends. If you are trying to reach a goal that takes years, a few weeks of effort isn't going to do anything, no matter how much effort.
Okay, that's true. I think this is just generally true. Like I said, I think what he just said was wrong, but generally speaking, he talks about, like, the dopamine, so on and so forth, attention span. He's right about what he's saying, but it's not subordinate to the spiritual nature, so it doesn't really work, practically speaking. But in this case, yeah. Because it's not like the spiritual nature and the animal nature are, like, fully separated. They are connected, right? So if you have a short attention span, that limits your ability to use your full spiritual nature. So that would be a case where you have to train the human nature in order to expand the window in which the spiritual nature can fill in, right? So this is important.
Most of the goals we have for ourselves are pretty big, highly variable, and don't have.
I'm going to take a piss real quick. I'm going to play the video. I have a wireless headset, so I'm going to take a piss, play the video. If there's anything interesting he says while I'm in the bathroom, I'm going to talk about it when I get back.
Have a clear path. And it's probably going to take hours and days and months, maybe even years of trying before any results begin to show. You have to front load so much effort before you'll be rewarded on any of that effort. And the modern world has trained us at every step to expect everything to be instant and comfortable. And this combined with our highly efficient, lazy-ass brains make being instantly, comfortably numb addicting. I've already talked about it a lot in this video, but social media, especially short-form content, has fucked our attention spans to the point that focusing on long-term projects becomes damn near impossible. Like, we've been taught that if the reward doesn't come in 10 seconds or less, we can just swipe and find something else that will satisfy us. Even outside the screen, the world is full of comfort and convenience, and basically anything you need for survival can be yours faster than any point in the history of ever, and just continues to get even faster and faster. And this is fine when it comes to general comfort and quality of life, but it does skew our perception of other things. And this is very, very noticeable whenever we remove all of our phones and distractions and we try to focus on something that takes longer than 10 minutes. Because, like, you can't put the grind in 2x speed. There is no skip button. There is no real life montage when it fast forwards a month in 3 seconds. If things get boring and hard, which they will, you can't just swipe to a better moment. And since most people expect to become a millionaire in 2 weeks by opening a dropshipping store and reading 25 pages of Atomic Habits, like, it's no wonder why a lot of people fail, because they didn't do the right things long enough. I remember whenever I was 12 or 13 years old, I wanted to get abs. So I did some research on YouTube and I found one of those 6-minute ab workout videos. And I did what it said, but I got really mad at the very end because it said I had to repeat everything I just did 4 times. And I thought I got scammed, but I didn't realize until I got older that it's repetition over time that builds results. Because, like, the video wasn't lying. Like, if I would have done what the video said, I would have gotten abs. But it wouldn't just take one set, but maybe like 600 total sets over the course of months before I started to see a really huge difference. But I didn't know at the time that if you just do the simple things.
That's not how you get abs, by the way.
The things we try to avoid over a long period of time, that's what builds results. Anyways, we are in a constant search for a shortcut, the easy way out. But today, since we have so much access to the internet and information, we can stay constantly trapped for a shortcut instead of just doing the things we know we need to do. We will waste more time looking for that shortcut rather than just doing the actions we know we should be doing. But that doesn't sound cool. That's why whenever you hear about it, whenever you hear about someone locking in, it's usually for like 75 days or for 6 months. But if you really think about that, like it doesn't exist. Like, yes, time exists, but 6 months doesn't really mean anything, because now is the only moment that you exist, and it just comes down to what you're actually doing now at this moment. Because what happens after 6 months?
This is true. So you should never ever look at your life like, well, in 6 months I'll be this, 3 months I'll be that, so on and so forth. You need to do I am now. I am successful. That's the way you gotta think about it. Now, you shouldn't do that before you like unlock your mind and go over the things that are stopping you mentally. It needs to come after. But yeah, if you start saying like in a year I'll be this, in 3 months I'll be that, 6 months I'll be this, and that's the first thing you say, you're doing it wrong.
You can actually pull through the actions. Like, does it stop? Are you finally done? There is no point in which you're going to reach the point in which is like, oh shit, I finally did it. Now I can chill and do nothing.
This is
the
true.
next day will always come. So in a real way, there really is no true finish line. This is usually why trying to do something unsustainable will never work. Whenever people say they're going to lock in, they're not trying to do something long term. It's just a quick burst. A quick burst might work for specific situations, like
this is a good
preparing
point
for a test, or might help once or twice. But those who make it don't do quick bursts. They just do. Sprinting won't get you to the end when the road wraps around the entire earth. Like, I'll use David Goggins as an example. He runs a lot, as we all know. But usually if you watch him run, especially in the middle of those like 100-mile long races, he is not sprinting. He's not hauling ass. He's keeping a pace that he can constantly maintain over the course of the entire race, which might only be around like 4 or 5 miles per hour, not a 15, 20 mile per hour sprint. Because he knows that if he does do that quick burst that we all try to do, he will fail. Because if you know before you even lock in that you're not going to focus on it long term, you might as well not even start. Because it's easy to get hyped and do the right things for a day or two. But what about day 67, month 14? Like, is it something you can do until the end, until you actually reach your goal? It's better to put in 30% effort for a year than 110% effort for 2 weeks. 3, it's a performative mindset. Like most things, people like to declare shit before doing shit because it makes them feel like they did something. Like, it feels good to say, I'm locked in, or to post about it, or to say that you're going to go.
Yeah, a lot of people develop this whole locking in thing out of a way to show off a mask. And try to live up to the mask, and they can't. So, this is probably a good point here.
Post on your Instagram story. But doing all that doesn't mean anything happened in real life. It doesn't mean you're any closer to your goals. It can be the first step, but if it's not followed up by action, it doesn't matter. For most, locking in is just another feel-good statement. Most people care more about how others perceive them than their perception of themselves. And once again, this is a human brain thing. Like, we are social creatures, and we care about what other people think about us, but sometimes we focus way too much on how we appear to be doing versus what we are actually doing. And whenever we tell the world that we're locked in and people celebrate us and hype us up, our brains make us feel like we did something, even though we didn't do anything. That's why it feels good to post stuff instead of actually doing stuff, to make plans and journaling instead of actually doing what you wrote down, to do the little weird habits like cold showers or meditation or reading some popular self-help book. Why it feels good to watch someone else.
99.9% of those popular self-help books suck. Like, if you're reading a book and it doesn't look old and crusty and whatever, and the text looks boring, if it doesn't look like that, then probably not reading a good book.
Be productive, even though we haven't done anything. Just because you see someone else waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning doesn't mean you waking up at 11 a.m. is the same thing. It's so easy to trick yourself because you feel inspired. You feel like you've been to the gym. You feel like you bought the Ferrari. But if you zoomed out and you watch yourself in third person, all you did was sit there and just consume content for an hour. Now, a little asterisk. I think
yeah, that's why you don't cope. Because if you cope, then you get the temporary feeling you think you did it all.
Like this is fine to consume.
And coping is when you don't do the part I said earlier where you break down yourself and then build yourself back up, so to speak.
If you're taking action alongside it, and it's just helping you keep the fire hot. If you're going to be on social media for hours every single day, or listen to podcasts, whatever, it is better to be consuming a bunch of self-improvement stuff rather than brain rot. But for most people, they're not even using it as a supplement. They're tricking their mind into thinking that that alone is actual progress. It's all performative. Like, people say cool things like, I want to become a millionaire, but they don't even pick up a book. Don't even make a plan. Don't even learn money. I want to become a millionaire, but they don't even pick up a book.
These books are like they're mid. They're not. I've gone through both of these. They're okay.
Don't even make a plan. Don't even learn what money actually is. They don't change anything. They don't try. They keep swiping on TikTok, and they think the best way to make money is to start a clothing brand with $50 or YouTube automation with faceless AI slop. They have no plan, no goal, no knowledge, no long-term strategy, just a temporary emotion that will fade just as quickly as it came. And then most of the time, the trigger for someone locking in is watching a David Goggins TikTok yelling at them, calling them a bitch. And that might keep you going for a few hours, but it fades very fast when things get actually hard.
Goes back to what I said earlier.
Locking in comes from something else other than yourself, you will fail. If you need someone to tell you to lock in, then you're not actually locked in.
It's true.
Most people don't know how to actually work on something outside of the things they're told to do. Most people will put more time and effort into pleasing someone else rather than focusing on the goals they have for themselves. For example, if someone was told to be up earlier at their job at 6 a.m. instead of 8 a.m., they would be there at 6 a.m. But then if they made the same promise to themselves that they'll be at the gym at 6 a.m., they would sleep in and miss it for the third.
Yeah, it's because those people have a very weak archetype of law and order. Okay, and that's some people who highly identify with Law and Order, they could also struggle with that if they're using it as compensation. But the solution to that, it's either there is a phantom complex, which is like the repressed aspects that you have to reveal within yourself in order to change, or there's kind of a over-identification with the archetype of the worker. It needs to be told what to do in order to do things. So it depends on the person's specific situation, but generally speaking, that's going to be something where you have to do what I said earlier, but also see how your archetypes are. Can you balance the archetypes that drive you to do things and also drive you to not do things? Because you have to balance them. You can't identify too much with them, you got to balance them. So then you can have all the benefits of each archetype.
Week in a row. Basically, a lot of motivational walk-in stuff is usually advertised as fun, high energy, feel good, hoorah. But if you've actually done something on your own, you realize it's the opposite. It's boring. It's hard, which is why it's difficult to stick with it, especially when you're surrounded by so many other pleasures and distractions. And if the only fuel you have is motivational TikToks or Instagram Reels, you will fail. And 4, most people have unrealistic expectations. Let's say you're locked in for 6 months. People expect those 6 months to be perfect and smooth. They think that the second they say the words out loud, I'm locked in, the universe will change and it'll be a perfect road. That one day they're just gonna start and it's gonna be this magical ride, and they get blindsided when they run into a problem 5 minutes later. People want fast, easy results. So if someone works on something for a month and sees nothing, they give up. If you ever worked on a project alone, whenever no one else told you to do it, and you actually did it and stuck with it until the very end, you realize that it took much more time than you thought it would in the very beginning, and it took more energy than you originally expected it to. 99% of your time was spent in quiet frustration and self-doubt, and there were at least 100 little roadblocks that could have stopped you at any point. It's difficult. It's hard. It actually challenges you. You're taking on a task that literally nobody is telling you to do, and you don't even have to do it. And when you reach the end, you realize why so many people never do anything long term. Because there's a massive difference between acting like you are something versus actually doing it. The hype and the theories of how to be productive versus actually throwing all of yourself into a task and getting lost in it. You start to understand that there is no secret. The only thing you can do is do. It's not a Rocky movie when you do 5 push-ups and the whole crowd is cheering for you. It's usually dark and quiet and boring, and it's usually...
Yeah, this is why you can't do the coping thing, because then when you don't have this external stimuli, you just give up. But if you are fulfilled within yourself, you know, these nights alone are actually very therapeutic and enjoyable.
Be very lonely and unmotivating as hell. You're going to constantly feel like you're behind, doubting yourself every step of the way, wondering if what you're doing is even worth it and if you should stop. Your brain is going to fuck with you more than the actual task itself. And sure, there are things that you can do to help, but you can't avoid doing the boring part. The thing we know we should be doing, that we try our best to avoid. They also think that during that period, it's going to be this constant up, 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 and every day is going to be 100%, when in reality, half the days are going to be below average. If you focused for a full year, that means 6 of those months are going to be below average. And most of that time, average doesn't even feel good. Some days are going to be missed. Most days you aren't going to do everything you set out to do. And maybe 3 of those days are going to go absolutely perfectly when all the stars align. But most people give up after 5 days because it gets hard and it doesn't meet the expectations that the world gave us. So yeah, when you combine all these things, you understand why locking in over a long period of time is so hard for most people and why it's never really easy. We are biologically hardwired to chase comfort and avoid pain. The big goals we have for ourselves are wants, not needs. And most people don't even know what they truly want and copy other people's 4 a.m. morning routine without creating their own that fits their own goals. They think results are going to happen tomorrow and care about the image of progress versus making actual progress. So when the time finally comes to sit down and do the work we know we should be doing, we stop. So if locking in can work, but it doesn't for most people, then how do you actually make it work? Well, first, step 0 is that you need to have a why, a good why, a great why, but not just a single why, but I would argue why cubed, why to the why to the why. Just think about almost any movie or story or anyone in their life. Whenever the character has the moment in which they obsess over a goal and they lock in. Why does that happen? It's because they found their why. Something clicks in their mind, and that purpose, good or bad, is something that becomes a need. And it's usually something bigger than themselves, something more than some small, vague...
Yeah, so this is a part of what I call the second stage, but you can't do this when you don't break yourself down first, because if you don't break yourself down first, what happens is that you end up attributing false whys that you don't truly believe. So this is skipping a very important step.
superficial reason, like I want to get strong, but rather something like I need to protect the village from the evil that's going to come in 5 years or something like that. I don't know. And then once they find that strong reason why, stopping them becomes almost impossible because they will put literally all their efforts into it. Or sometimes they won't stop until they're literally dead. Now, in the real world, it doesn't mean you need to save the universe from destruction or anything crazy like that. They need to have your motivation so dark and so important that you sacrifice every little thing that ends up costing you more in the end. But the closer you can make your goal a need, the better. Or your brain's going to fight you every single step of the way. Because, okay, if you don't pick a goal that you need to do, if it's not something that's so important to you that you can't stop thinking about it, you simply won't do it. Because the world we live in today.
Okay, he's true about if you don't, it's not in your mental plane, like your thoughts, your stream of consciousness thoughts, you won't do it. But it's like you're doing it out of order. You can't do that first. Like, you can't have your why and then you just try to start filling your mental plane. You're missing probably the most important part, which is to break yourself down first. You need to, because think about it like this. This whole process is like building a house. But in this process he's describing, the house that used to be there hasn't been demolished. So they're trying to build a new house on top of an old house. That doesn't make sense. And it's going to fall apart.
It gives us so much instant comfort and pleasures and distractions. And this ocean of instant gratification is going to easily drown out a meh reason for doing something. If you're going to do something over a long period of time, you need to have something else as fuel other than your motivational, happy, feel-good emotions. Because one day you feel great, and the next you're questioning the purpose in anything. And if you solely rely on them, then your progress is also going to be random. Just random bursts of motivation that get you nowhere long-term. It's corny, but it's like the quote I said earlier, how any why can overcome any how. Or, if you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. It sounds kind of corny, but it does have a lot of truth behind it. You constantly just do breathing, even though you're not constantly thinking about breathing. And if you don't breathe for 30 seconds, you will do anything to get air because it's a non-negotiable. Or almost any example. If someone's...
Yeah, no, like, operating like this is just so retarded. You're just going to live your whole life either coping or just hating everything. Okay? Because you're not... Because in here, there's no embodiment of your goal. Right? If you have a goal, to achieve it, you have to become one with the goal. So when you act in that goal, it's not a force. It's not like I need to do it. It's just who you are. I am. Right? But you need to do other parts first before that. So, you know, this is like what smart people say and think. And I'm sure this guy's cool. He said a few things that are smart, but like, this is what people who are like, oh, well, you know, the discipline, motivation, TikTok stuff doesn't work. This is what actually works. And just say something almost equally as stupid.
Said you had to do X, Y, or Z in 6 months, or you're homeless, or they were going to harm you and your family. You would make it work because there's a strong reason there. But like we said before, for most people, there aren't really any real consequences for not achieving your goal. But if you don't set up any consequences, either in real life or mentally, if you know that whether or not you achieve your goals, nothing's going to happen to you, it's basically never going to happen because you're going to default to comfort. Anyways, it has to be a strong why. Without that, nothing matters. Then once you have something that you actually care about, remove everything that is not the goal. Once you have a good why, your brain is still going to fuck with you. It's still going to want to go towards the easier ones, even if the one that you have is massive and will bring you fulfillment and pleasure. You have to remove the short-term instant gratification activities, either your phone or other distractions like TV, sports, video games, other people, etc. The things we know we shouldn't be doing. Now, I'm not saying you got to go extreme and never, ever, ever do anything ever again, but the more you remove these things, the easier it will be for your brain to focus on the things you truly care about. Then, once you have all that down, actually do it. Actually take the actions. Not talking about it, not watching the video, is that. So just do it. It's you do not. You're going to be so
Oh yeah, that's all. So, that video wasn't terrible. It's kind of mid. I think I already explicated everything I want to explicate, so I think we'll leave that at that. Alright, so that's probably just going to be the whole stream, unless there's any specific questions which you ask in the next 10 seconds. Probably just call that a day. That was a good stream. I got 7 videos out of that. 7 videos I actually going to be happy to upload, so gonna be getting on the daily uploads. If you watch this whole stream, then probably won't gain much, because it's just gonna be uploads of clips from the stream, but you know, it's always something. At least you get an easy way to review everything. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next one.